In the dim corridors of Britain's underworld, a chilling truth unfolds. Some children don't inherit bedtime stories or hand-me-down toys. They inherit codes of silence, encrypted secrets, and an unwritten oath of loyalty. Born into crime before they could spell the word, these sons were groomed not just by their father's choices but by an entire legacy of organized transgression. By the time most kids learn how to tie their shoelaces, these heirs already know how to wipe a phone, recognize a tail, and never ask questions. They aren't just exposed to crime, they're conditioned by it. According to the Center for Crime and Justice Studies, children raised in criminal households are 3 times more likely to come into contact with the justice system before the age of 18. But this isn't a story of troubled youth spiraling into chaos. It's about how these children, decades later, have become the masterminds of a new empire, silent, digital, and devastatingly efficient. Gone are the days when criminal power was measured by street muscle or fear-mongering headlines. In the shadows of a hyper-connected world, today's crime bosses no longer need brass knuckles. They use blockchain. The evolution is surgical. Brute force has been traded for strategy, and blood-stained alleys for encrypted networks. A recent Europol report revealed a staggering 62% rise in the use of encrypted communication and cryptocurrency among criminal groups since 2020. These aren't your traditional mobsters. They're digital tacticians. They invest in front companies, pass audits with flying colors, and flash degrees from respected universities. They pose for polished LinkedIn profiles while funneling illicit funds through crypto wallets and shell corporations. The Financial Conduct Authority reports a 400% spike in suspicious crypto transactions linked to high-risk zones like London and Liverpool in the past 3 years. Visibility, for them, is vulnerability, and so they vanish into legitimate-looking lives while orchestrating crime with the swipe of a finger. To understand how deep the roots of this transformation go, one must revisit the infamous crime dynasties that once gripped the UK with terror and precision. In the not-so-distant past, names like Adams, Kinahan, and Arif sparked fear, not curiosity. These syndicates ran drug empires, controlled extortion rings, and executed contract killings with clockwork discipline. The Adams family, known as the Clerkenwell Crime Syndicate, were so efficient they were often described by law enforcement as one of Britain's most professional criminal outfits. The Kinahans expanded their reach beyond Irish borders into Europe and the Middle East. And the Arifs were notorious for running South London like a militarized zone. Their patriarchs are now either buried, imprisoned, or vanished into exile. But what many assumed to be the end of an era was, in fact, a calculated rebirth. The National Crime Agency reported in 2023 that UK crime group structures have not shrunk. They've flattened, adopted tech, and expanded into global logistics with chilling precision. While the old guard made their fortunes through force and notoriety, their successors are schooled in invisibility. These new players were raised behind gates, sent to elite academies, and taught to smile for cameras while shielding entire empires in offshore accounts. But don't let the cufflinks and clean records fool you. The code remains unchanged: loyalty, silence, profit. They've mastered the art of concealment. Encrypted messaging apps, digital money trails, and shell companies are their tools of the trade. Where their fathers left bodies and bullet holes, they leave no trace, just numbers that vanish across borders. Among these modern heirs, one name looms larger than most: Daniel Kinahan. Son of Christy Kinahan, once dubbed the Dapper Don, Daniel is the embodiment of the 21st century gangster. With tailored suits, high-profile boxing connections, and a public image built to charm, Daniel operates not from a hideout, but from Dubai, beyond the reach of Western extradition. Despite US and EU sanctions and a $5 million bounty on his head, he remains untouchable. His influence seeps into professional boxing. In 2020, he was credited with brokering what would have been one of the biggest fights in history, Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. But the ring was only a stage. Behind the scenes, investigations by the BBC and Irish authorities link Daniel to a criminal network that spans over 20 countries and generates more than £1 billion in revenue. Narcotics, arms trafficking, money laundering, It's all there, concealed beneath layers of crypto investments and fake boardrooms. He doesn't dodge the law. He outruns it. But Daniel isn't alone. Another rising figure in the digital criminal hierarchy is Lee Byrne, son of Liam Byrne, a trusted Kinahan associate. Lee isn't the ghost in the machine, he's the illusion. With a perfectly curated Instagram feed, designer fashion, and a headline-making relationship with Lily Gerard, daughter of football legend Steven Gerrard, Lee wears legitimacy like cologne. To the outside world, he's a celebrity in the making. But authorities believe the glamour masks something darker. Irish investigators suspect Lee of deep involvement in drug logistics, utilizing encrypted systems and high-end technology to coordinate trafficking routes that stretch across borders. A 2023 Interpol report found that 70% of criminal crypto wallets had direct links to UK or Irish crime groups, with Kinahan affiliates like Lee near the top of the list. And then there's the shadowy continuation of the Adams family legacy. Once synonymous with organized brutality in North London, the Adams brothers, Terry, Tommy, and Patrick, ran an operation so polished it rivaled corporate boardrooms. Arms dealing, extortion, financial manipulation, they perfected the business of crime. Terry served time for money laundering, Tommy was the enforcer, and Patrick handled the books. The early 2000s saw a wave of convictions, asset seizures, and the gradual unraveling of their visible empire. But in 2025, the next generation of Adams' influence doesn't carry guns. They carry investment portfolios. They're rarely named publicly but frequently surface in business registers and property deals. King's College London researchers suggest these successors operate through shell companies registered offshore and have sunk millions into real estate in London and Spain. Their operations appear legitimate: exclusive nightclub security, luxury car rentals, art galleries. Yet, scratch the surface and you'll find the same engines, only better hidden. According to the National Crime Agency, remnants of the Adams clan continue to launder millions through cryptocurrency and overseas trusts, staying just beyond the reach of modern justice. In the 1990s, Curtis "Cocky" Warren stood as one of Britain's most feared names, an underworld giant whose criminal web stretched from Colombia's coca fields to West African ports. With a reported fortune of over £200 million, he earned his title as Interpol's most wanted, moving massive quantities of cocaine and heroin through British shipping channels under the noses of customs officials. But prison walls couldn't erase his legacy. Released in the early 2020s, Warren faded from tabloid headlines, but not from the streets. His ghost lives on through Ments, family associates, and a new generation that inherited more than memories. They inherited a blueprint. In Liverpool, the criminal scene hasn't softened, it's adapted. The National Crime Agency's 2024 report reveals that new Merseyside-based gangs have embraced encrypted communication and international logistics like seasoned tech entrepreneurs. These successors don't operate in back alleys or nightclubs. They run logistics firms and ghost companies, trading flash for finesse. Crypto wallets move money faster than a getaway car ever could. In just the past 3 years, HMRC has seized over £90 million in laundered funds tied to shell firms rooted in Liverpool. What was once controlled by intimidation is now governed by spreadsheets and encrypted servers. The kingpins may have changed, but the empire endures. Further south, in the maze-like boroughs of South London, the Arif name still echoes through whispers. Once a dominant force in the 1990s, infamous for their brutal enforcement and military discipline, the original Arif crew has splintered. Many of the elder members are either incarcerated or deported to Turkey, but the bloodlines remain, pumping influence into a new breed of decentralized microcrews. These aren't gangs in the traditional sense. They're agile, corporate in structure, and subtle in operation. Their leaders wear tailored jackets, not tracksuits, and run music festivals, real estate flips, and security firms. But beneath the legitimate gloss, the criminal machinery ticks on. National Crime Agency investigations have flagged numerous property deals in Lambeth and Southwark, transactions linked to shell companies controlled by Arif family affiliates. Behind the paperwork lie drugs, weapons, and decades of invisible control. Travel north to Birmingham, and the transformation becomes even more surgical. The Noonan and Brindle families once ruled with fists and fear, their names enough to command silence in the streets. Today, their successors sit at conference tables, not bar stools. These New Age criminals have traded backroom brawls for boardroom strategies. Offshore trusts, tax havens, and digital currencies have become their instruments of power. And they're not just investing in property or fake companies, they're cultivating cultural capital. Music labels rooted in grime and drill have emerged as financial vehicles and recruitment tools. In 2024, a joint task force linked over £8 million in illicit funds to Birmingham-based labels, revealing how deep the overlap runs between criminality and music culture. The streets may seem quieter, but the soundtrack of organized crime plays on, only now it's auto-tuned and monetized. At the center of this transformation lies a universal constant: technology. Cryptocurrency has become the bloodstream of organized crime, pumping illicit funds across continents in seconds. According to Chainalysis, over £10 billion in illegal crypto transactions were traced in Europe in 2024 alone. This isn't happening in dark corners. It's happening on decentralized exchanges, masked behind e-commerce storefronts and polished user interfaces. Criminals use Monero for its untraceable architecture, rely on mixing services to scrub transactions clean, and cycle money through peer-to-peer platforms like seasoned bankers. Apps like Signal and Telegram have replaced safe houses, offering encrypted communication that vanishes before it can ever be traced. Power isn't held in muscle anymore, it's held in passwords. And just as the methods have changed, so has the recruitment. The new generation of gangsters isn't built in alleyways, they're molded on social media. Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube have become recruitment grounds where designer lifestyles and curated content blur the line between fantasy and criminal reality. Jets, Lamborghinis, stacks of cash, these aren't props, they're bait. The University of Kent warns that the gangster myth has become dangerously aspirational, especially among youth. It's no longer about intimidation, it's about influence. According to the National Crime Agency, online gang-related content rose by 81% since 2020, with more than 3,000 flagged videos believed to promote criminal lifestyles. Many of these content creators are second-generation crime figures themselves, turning their real-world reach into digital dominance. But the rise of this invisible empire hasn't gone unnoticed. Law enforcement is evolving too, though never quite fast enough. Operation Venetic, launched in 2021, offered a rare glimpse behind the curtain when authorities cracked Encrypted, uncovering over 10,000 encrypted messages. Massive arrests followed across Europe. Yet that breakthrough is already ancient history. Criminals have moved on to more secure platforms like Sky ECC clones, VPN overlays, and customized encryption networks. Europol now reports a 45% increase in cyber-facilitated trafficking since 2022, with law enforcement always a step behind. And while gunfire may have grown rare, the violence hasn't vanished. It's simply become more precise. London saw a 14% rise in knife crimes in gang-afflicted boroughs in 2024. In Greater Manchester, disappearances tied to criminal operations remain unsolved, their stories silenced long before headlines could be written. This isn't the end of crime, it's its reinvention. The sons of gangsters aren't chasing turf with fists and guns, they're running empires with encrypted apps and offshore accounts. They whisper through fiber optic cables, move product through anonymized servers, and quietly control wealth most can't trace. The Home Office warns of generational crime as Britain's greatest domestic threat, and it's already here. What was once written in blood is now embedded in code. These heirs are invisible CEOs in a digital underworld where influence is currency, visibility is death, and power has never been more difficult to detect or more dangerous. From the alleyways of South London to encrypted networks spanning the globe, organized crime has shed its skin but not its soul. Today's crime lords operate in silence, cloaked in wealth, technology, and legitimacy, while the underworld thrives just beneath the surface of everyday life. If you think the Mafia died with the old dons, think again. The empire lives on, hidden in plain sight. If you're fascinated by how yesterday's gangsters became today's ghost kings, Subscribe to Inside the Secret World of Mafia Titans, where we expose the evolution of organized crime like you've never seen before. Who's really pulling the strings in your city? The answers might just surprise you.